Welcome back to the Monday Moment. I'm Tom Medendorp, founder, chief firearms instructor at Michigan Firearms. The Monday Moment has been created for you, the firearms owner, handler, to become more safe in all aspects of firearms handling. When we started out, we gave you an introduction. Okay, so this is only the third episode, but we gave you the introduction to what we're doing. Then we talked about the three elements of safe firearms handling. The first element being the positive attitude that comes from you. Second element being proper knowledge, which comes from us to you. And then the earned skill, which is something you build utilizing your proper attitude or your positive attitude and our proper knowledge. Okay? So first example of what it means to have a positive attitude, what it means to have proper knowledge imparted on you would be the example that I've told many times to drive the point across. We'll go right into the story here. Young man, 12 years old, he had taken his hunter safety course. Now, I don't want to say what state it was in, I don't want to say who it was, anything of that nature, but he had taken his hunter safety course, he had passed his hunter safety course, and his father was very, very proud of him. What was emphasized in his hunter safety course was to check if the gun is unloaded. That's the first rule of firearms handling. Everybody thinks that's the golden rule of firearms handling. Treat every gun as if it's loaded, or check that the firearm is unloaded. It's a good rule. It's a good first rule. But what we need to think about is, if we're going to have the proper knowledge to understand that rule, we need to look at what it means to fundamentally handle a firearm safely. So we started with the three elements of firearm safety, those elements being the positive attitude, the proper knowledge, and the earned skill. And then we're going to take you into more examples of the always rules, or the fundamentals of firearms handling. Not rules, but fundamentals. Just fundamentally handle a firearm safely. So, if the young man had been taught the fundamentals, this situation may not have happened. I want you to keep that in mind while I tell you about it. So the young man had his hunter safety certificate, he had gotten his hunter safety license, and he was going to go hunting for the very first time. His father was very proud of him, so his father sent him to go get the gun out of the gun cabinet. And therefore he did. He got the gun out of the gun cabinet. It was a pump shotgun, much like this pump shotgun. Notice the chamber here is closed. And when the young man got the gun out, he was going to treat it as a loaded gun, so he needed to unload it. That was what he understood. The first thing he needed to do was always check that it's unloaded. So he grabbed the pump handle. Now, this pump handle won't move because this chamber is empty. So I have to hit the action release to remove it. Okay, so I'm going to move it back. His pump handle moved because there was a shell in the chamber. He went like that. The shell ejected. Oh, there's one in there. So then what he did is he went right back, and when he went back, he pushed the gun forward. Now, if you look at where my finger was just a moment ago, it was on the trigger. We're going to talk more in upcoming Monday Moments about keeping your finger off the trigger till you're ready to shoot. But his finger was on the trigger. There's no firing pin that's being activated right now, because it activated when he pushed the pump handle forward, which pushed the gun. His finger was on the trigger. Not a bad thing per se, because the gun, if it was pointed in a safe direction, it would fire. Something would get damaged, possibly, or maybe it would just go into a pile of dirt, which is where we should be pointing things. Or maybe it went through the wall of the house, but it was the wall to the outside, not with somebody on the other side of it. The problem came in when he had the gun pointed at his younger sister. His younger sister was damaged, half of her face, her shoulder area, all around here, and she's maimed. She's damaged, lost her sight in her left eye, and she's going to be damaged for the remainder of her life. Multiple surgeries, I'm sure, for cosmetics and so on. But the problem came in because he wasn't taught the fundamental rules for firearms handling. And believe me, people my age have not been taught the fundamental rules for firearms handling. So if we talk about it, we need to have the gun pointed in a safe direction, either a sufficient backstop, the way the gun's pointed. We need to keep, or nothing, okay, where the rounds can't travel far enough, but sufficient backstop would be preferred. Keep our finger off the trigger until we're ready to fire, and keep it unloaded until we're ready to use it. So if we had followed the rules, we would have taken the gun out of the cabinet, we would have checked that it was unloaded, but we would have first pointed in a safe direction, kept our finger off that trigger, and we can operate this action over and over, make sure nothing's in the magazine, nothing's in the chamber, and then when we get it back here, we can look in there. Now, we're going to cover this stuff again, but what we have to think about is that we're talking about proper knowledge. Knowledge can be imparted on people insufficiently, incorrectly. We can leave gaps. We need to think about how we can learn that knowledge, what the right knowledge is, what the correct knowledge is. We need to analyze what we're learning, and we also need to be very careful about who we choose to teach us what we need to know about being safe firearms handlers. We'll talk about some other examples of proper knowledge next week on the Monday Moment.